So to start today's video, I thought I would simply say Happy Father's Day to all, especially mine, since mine intends to wipe out all human life in 2020. I could, if requested, add all the other variables to Father's Day that would appease all the other groups, but if my record is anything to go by, I am far too lazy to go through that. Now every year, when Father's Day comes about, there has been an attack on it. In the 3 years I've been on YouTube, this has been the case. In fact, it's just over 3 years now. Yay me. Last year was one of the most annoying ones with the t-shirt. Do you remember it? I think I have a picture of it on the screen now. It was quite annoying. This year, though, irritated me a little more. I noticed it irritated my friend Sinatra quite a bit on the Ghost Poo podcast on Friday. Link in the description. And I know it also pissed off Drunken Uncle, which is a rarity. But for me, I didn't know about the tweet that annoyed Sinatra. I had heard about an article on the Daily Mail website. And no, I'm not going to play the video that accompanies it, because much like the BBC, ITV are just as keen and trigger happy on the copyrights. Instead, I'm going to paint a scenario for you. The scenario will be what happened and what my views on it are. So there was this man, the creator of Fathers for Justice, a movement most notably known for a man dressing up as Batman and climbing onto a balcony at Buckingham Palace, protesting fathers' rights, or a lack thereof. Fathers for Justice themselves, while standing up for noble causes, are a bit of a meme because of some of the stupid shit they have done over the years. Now, the founder of Fathers for Justice was invited onto Good Morning Britain, a TV show in the mornings on ITV, formerly GMTV and whatever else it was afterwards, where they were debating whether Father's Day should still be a thing. The argument presented in the tweet and by one of the presenters of the show was that because of the rise of single parents, and of course what they called blended families, which I had never heard of until then, Father's Day as a whole should be seen as a meh, let's get rid of it, and just keep Mother's Day, or simply celebrate Mother's Day twice. One of the presenters on the show used the excuse that, because she was raised in a single household, she found Father's Day to be quite offensive. On the screen now are the statistics for current single-parent households. You, obviously, were raised by a mother. I want you, the presenter who said this, to go and look at every single father who is raising their children and say to them, yeah, you don't need this. I can see it going down oh so well, but much like many things that are being pushed by the progressives, I mean mainstream media, I don't want to conflate the two. It's okay to encroach upon men's spaces, but we cannot afford the same luxury to women's, because that makes sense, and we'll use the excuse of blended families and single-parent households, which is not a valid excuse when you consider the vast number of single fathers. Thankfully, as the number of rights are increasing and people are finally starting to get it through their dense skulls, that it isn't always wise to have the children live with the mother if the mother is not exactly fit to be a parent. The statistics will, over time, change. Now, earlier I mentioned encroaching on men's spaces. This would include men-only clubs. This would include men-only swimming pools when the opposite exists. But no one complains about that. There are many others, of course. We could add the Boy Scouts of America, which I assume will just be called America. I think you all get the point. There is something wrong about this that just makes no sense to me. Now, during this debate, the man who represents Fathers for Justice, the founder, he got frustrated and he decided to protest. And in his protest, he dropped his zipper and presented woolly testicles to the presenters and the other person debating him, although it did, looking at it, appear to be a bit of a 3-on-1. This is one of those times when equal representation would be good, so I would argue Piers Morgan would be the ideal person to sit on that panel and remove Kate Garraway from it. First of all, he would have called the Fathers for Justice man a plonker on air, and second, I think he's got enough sense in him to not be so blinded by ideology, although he is pretty fucking stupid. Now, the testicles were a gift from grandmothers who had knitted them, and I'm going to read a passage from the Daily Mail article that is relevant to this, because I for a while did not know why these particular grandmothers support Fathers for Justice. So, on Monday the 11th of June, grandmothers who do not see their grandchildren because their sons have lost access staged a knit-in outside the Houses of Parliament. This is one of those things I knew about as a child, from being raised in a single-parent household. It is not easy to maintain that balance with those that want to be in your life, but it is only fair a balance is reached by those who are willing to be civil. If you're not, then you don't get to see those people who care about you. I was one of the lucky people, and I got to see the people I care about who also cared about me. But of course this does not happen to all, because as we know there are quite a lot of bitchy people, men and women. They carried out the protest in support of Fathers for Justice to raise awareness of the millions of children who do not see their dads on Father's Day. Entirely circumstance based, so of course I'm not going to hold much stock in that. The grandmothers have knitted 650 pairs of pink fluffy woolen balls to give to every MP in the country to highlight the plight of separated dads. Well then, the Fathers for Justice founder just wasted a few pairs, but I would very much like to see politicians rock these. Just have them attached to the zipper. I think that would be very appropriate. Jenny Brown, a 72-year-old grandmother and nativist from New Malden, said the family court made an order for shared residency for my son, but then they just sat back and did nothing when his daughter, my granddaughter, was taken away. I hope that our knitting will be a humorous way of raising awareness about a very serious issue, the 3 million plus children who live in fatherless homes and won't see their dads on Father's Day. This happens to also transition to a video also by Good Morning Britain, where they debated the rise in knife crime and said, is it because of the lack of fathers in their children's lives that is to be blamed on this? Essentially then trying to find blame in knife crime. We could certainly make an argument for this, and I'll agree, because of parental styles and whether or not one is the caregiver or the disciplined person in the family, that is. If the father is the disciplined person and he is not there, then of course you've got a problem, because that kid's then going to grow up being easily influenced by Muppets, and then proceed to basically not buck any stereotype or trend when it comes to committing certain crimes in areas of London. The most recent ones with the black guys on the push bikes, strolling up to cars with zombie knives, those happened mere days after I made my video talking about ethnic diversity with cyclists in London. If I had known about them, or if they had happened before I made my video public, I would have, of course, edited my video to include such glorious footage to make one very obvious point. To finish this video, I want to conclude with mothers and fathers should be appreciated. These days have been set aside for a reason, whether you agree with it or not, and just because of a rise in blended families does not mean you cannot appreciate Mother's Day or Father's Day. You can be a gay woman and be the masculine person in the relationship or family and then accept Father's Day for yourself, or just have Mother's Day because both of you are. And the same applies to gay men. And I know someone's going to say, what about the trans? Unless non-binary is existent in that, it is still Mother's Day or Father's Day. So my point stands. Taking away these individual things that make men happy, if that makes sense. That sounds terrible. But I think it is one of those nice little things, considering day in and day out, the establishments like GMB go out of their way to put across these very, quote, controversial ideas. But when you watch the debate, which I will link below on that particular subject about fatherless families, and whether that's to be blamed and therefore the father to be blamed for the increase in knife crime, it does make you wonder how much longer guys are going to tolerate it, but also it does show and highlight quite well just how intolerant the media is. I would fully expect International Men's Day to be something they would consider banning as well, as misogynistic. And while there are a number of facts that certainly could support the idea that fatherless households may be a contributing factor, using it as an excuse to blame dads as a whole is in poor taste. It is bad optics. It is careless. Drunken Uncle said on the Ghost Poo that men have evolved over the centuries to simply learn to take it on the chin because they've had to go through it, adapt, and get on with it. And it does come back to the adage of how we were raised. I was raised, whenever I got hurt, with my father saying, "Toughen up, princess, shake it off." That kind of rhetoric was how I was raised, bottling up emotion, which is not healthy for some. I have survived well enough for long enough. But men have been raised this way, and it is a debatable point point, men have been raised to be tougher. That does not mean you then can take liberties with that toughness to erode at what sanity they have left, possibly their pride as well, by making them feel like they are a second-class citizen, which is one of the main points I have against certain movements, where instead of trying to elevate other people, you just want to bring others down to your level, which is what you are trying to do, to the point where they are beneath you, and I don't like that. That, to me, falls within the category of bullying, and bullies take various shapes and sizes. They conduct themselves in very different ways, and I do not like bullies. So I hope everyone has a lovely Father's Day, and thank you all for listening.
Oh, goddowns.
Imagine my shock